5 seconds to the open. Ready?
Who wants to get this thing started right about now?
Welcome to Follow the Money Weekly with your host, Jerry Robinson.
Welcome.
Not just some guru.
Oh, really?
Your host is an economist and a best-selling author.
What an interesting news item. I'd better write that down.
And just someone who likes to make money and help you to make money. Welcome to Follow the Money Weekly. And here he is, Jerry Robinson.
Friends, welcome to you all around the world. Welcome back to Follow the Money Radio. You can find us online, followthemoney.com. We are located and beaming to you from the middle of North America, right here from our base of operations in Fayetteville, Arkansas, where we just hosted one of the very best, in fact, the best summit that we have ever hosted here at Follow the Money. In fact, it was for the 2018 year. We had more than 130 online income seekers, position traders, swing traders, investors, and those who were just curious to learn more, newbies who were just getting started. Fantastic time we had. We talked about that last weekend, but we have some more news on that because we actually had a contest that we were running for all of our attendees. Whoever uploaded their picture to Twitter, we had a contest. And the winner of that contest was announced just recently. Greg L. from Texas won $100 in Bitcoin for taking a great picture at the 2018 summit. And by the way, you can look at all of those pictures if you go to Twitter and use the hashtag FTM, like Follow the Money, Summit 18. And right there you can see all of the different images that people took. There were so many other great images that were taken.
Yes, in fact, our runner-up, we had two runners-up, and it was Anne and Connie Joe. And so you can, if you go to Twitter and you search for that hashtag FTM Summit 18, you will see Greg's, who was the grand prize winner. And then you will also see the runner-ups, Anne and Connie Joe. You will see so many great photos, and then some that we uploaded as well ourselves. And so you can just check out and see what the sites were, see the people's faces, see the speakers. If you want to see if you were an attendee, you can go check out those pictures and get reminded of how awesome it was. If you weren't an attendee, you can check it out to see and see what you missed and hopefully plan to come next year.
Absolutely, and we'll be announcing information about next year's summit coming up very quickly. We also have one more giveaway for Bitcoin we're going to be doing this Sunday, so another $100 in Bitcoin we're going to be giving away, and that is going out to a random submission from our recent summit survey. So for all of our 2018 summit attendees, we emailed you a survey. You should have received it, maybe about a week ago or so. And we gave you until the 10th of June to get those in. We're going to choose one at random and give that person $100 worth of Bitcoin just for their trouble. So I want to thank everybody for filling out that feedback. It's so important for us to hear from you about this topic because we want to serve you. We want to have the best experience for you lined up each and every year. So any kind of feedback you provide us is valuable. So be listening on the next podcast to hear the winner of the Summit Survey. And if you did attend the 2018 Summit and you did not provide a feedback survey and you want to do that, just check your email, check your inbox. You should see an email from us just a few days ago, and you can get that filled out and submitted. As long as you do that by this Sunday, the 10th of June, you'll be in the drawing for $100 worth of Bitcoin. So fantastic. Good stuff. Good stuff. Now, you may remember in our last podcast, we talked about the C word for the word course. We took charting the course, and we took that last word, course, and we turned it into an acronym. And we said that the C stands for commitment. The O stands for overhead. And today, that's what we're going to be talking about. Is your overhead preventing your success? That's the title of today's podcast. And I want to just drill down right here because we're going to be going many other places over the next several weeks. We're going to be going through this acronym, COU. U stands for unlearn, R stands for reserve, S stands for streams, income streams, and E stands for education. But today, we're going to talk about this topic of overhead, which is what O stands for in course. And let's just put it to you this way. I just want to be drastic here for a moment because oftentimes people don't realize they have a financial problem until they have a financial dilemma or a financial crisis in their life. It's the same way with our health. A man can be going about his day doing just fine, living his day, and then suddenly he has a heart attack. Or suddenly he has a stroke. And we all know people who have been impacted by that. And when we think about those moments, what we see typically in the person who that happens to is they suddenly want to turn around. They want to change their habits. They want to suddenly eat better and they want to exercise. They suddenly learn the importance of these concepts that they always knew were important. But suddenly, because of life circumstances, they take on a real meaning all of a sudden. And that's the same way that's the same kind of thing that can happen to us in our finances if we're not careful. We're going along, we're doing exactly what the system is telling us to do. We've got our high school education, we got our diploma, we go get a college degree, we go out to the workforce and we get a job. And then lo and behold, we get fired or we get laid off. And it throws us into a major financial crisis. And so many times, because of the way our system is set up, we end up taking on too much overhead. And for those of you not familiar with financial lingo, if you're saying, what the heck is overhead? We're just referring to outflow. The amount of money that you're if you take all the money that you're owed on, all the money that you owe on a regular basis every single month, that's the amount that's flowing out to you. It's not the income, it's the outflow.
Yes, and some people who are business owners or maybe accountants out there, you are familiar with the business concept of overhead, which is all of the expenses in a business that are not either the direct labor or the direct materials involved in producing a product or a service for sale. For example, in the business world, let's say you are making laptops. You're a laptop manufacturer, so rent, utilities for your manufacturing facility, your insurance, your office supplies, your marketing for those laptops, all of those things are considered overhead. And then for those of you not in the business world, but so just for the average individual and family out there, the overhead that we're talking about today is basically the expenses that you incur, like Jerry just said, like your rent and your clothes and your food and your entertainment even, your vacations. All of these are expenses and what we're calling overhead on today's show.
Exactly. And so there are good expenses and there are bad expenses, just like we hear that there is good forms of cholesterol and bad forms of cholesterol, right? Some things you have to do. Of course, you have to have a place to live. So that you can't say, well, that's bad overhead. I'm going to get rid of that. In fact, I'll tell you a story about somebody who did in just a minute. Kind of an interesting extreme example of someone getting rid of all of their overhead. But bad overhead, just like we have bad fats we can eat, bad overhead clogs your income streams. Remember, your income streams are flowing to you, whether it's coming from your W-2 paycheck or whether it's coming from, some side hustle or side gig that you have. Whatever those income streams are coming into you from, your overhead, bad overhead clogs those income streams. Just like grease and fat clog your arteries, so too bad overhead clogs your income streams. It prevents the amount of income coming to you from being what it could. It slows it down. It makes it less efficient, makes it less potent, and it also makes it more difficult for you to break free from something we call the consumption trap. And Jennifer, we've talked about the consumption trap so many times on this podcast. Why don't you share a little bit about what that means to you? Because I know many people have heard my story about the consumption trap. Why don't you say a few things about it?
Sure. The consumption trap to me is all about a mindset, Jerry. So when we were living down in the huge city of Houston, Texas, we came to this new mindset about what we were producing ourselves, which wasn't very much. We looked around our home, we looked at in our pantry, we looked at our furniture, we looked at our TV or the entertainment that we were experiencing, and we realized we didn't produce very much on our own. And so what we did was we looked at why we were doing that. Why were we outsourcing everything in our lives? Why were we outsourcing all of this stuff? Well, we realized that we never actually had a choice in this matter. We never had a choice to consciously say, yes, I am choosing to outsource all of my food to the grocery store. Now, it's okay if you do. That's not necessarily in and of itself a bad thing. But the fact that I never consciously made that decision, and that Jerry never consciously made that decision before this realization back in about 2010, 2011, was troubling to us. And it caused us to start looking at why we had never had the chance to make that decision ourselves. And we realized that there were three powerful forces out there. It's not some kind of conspiracy. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is just a matter of fact. This is just how capitalism works, and we live in a capitalistic system, so we have to just know and understand the facts. There are producers out there. They are called corporations, and they make all kinds of products and services. So that's force number one, and we all know corporations are extremely powerful in our society. They produce everything. Well, of course, they want to convince you and me to buy their products and services. Of course, this is capitalism, right? That's just how it works. And so on comes to the scene marketers and advertisers. And so they are, their role in this consumption trap is to show you a lifestyle that makes you want the corporation's products and services, and then to convince you to buy them. And then the third and final force, is the financial enabler, which would be the banks and financial institutions that provide low, easy monthly payments or zero down for all of these things that the corporations want you and I to buy. So we realize those three forces, again, not a conspiracy, it's just the way it is, they make up the consumption trap. And through, childhood and then growing up into early adulthood, most people just don't ever consciously think about the fact that they are in this trap, and their finances show it, basically. So I want to give you a quiz on this. Okay, so I want you to think about, which of the following do you actually produce on your own, or maybe with a neighbor in a very small community, yourself or with your neighbors? Okay, food. Some of you might produce some of your food. We produce some of our food here at the house. Water. Do you produce your own drinking, bathing, cleaning water? Utilities. Entertainment. Clothing. Some of you might produce some of your own clothing. I don't. I produce my own food here at the house, but I don't produce my own clothing. What about transportation? Does anybody produce their own transportation anymore? Maybe some people walk to work if you live in the middle of the city, but most people don't produce their own transportation. So how did you do in that quiz? If you cannot answer yes to any of those, I recommend, of course, continuing to listen to this podcast and thinking about the conscious decisions of your spending, of your overhead, and think about, consciously choose what you're going to outsource and spend your money on. For example, Jerry and I chose not to spend a lot of money on gift giving on the holidays and birthdays. Uh-oh, that's a big topic, scary topic. But we chose to opt out of that. Have you ever consciously chosen to opt into that? Or are you just, sort of boistered into it by your family or your work or just the people around you?
Jennifer, I want to say something on this topic because you're getting into something that's even moving over into next week's show, because next week we're going to talk about the U, which is unlearn. And, it takes unlearning to really comprehend what's happened in our society to many people. I mean, many people, as you pointed out, are living paycheck to paycheck. Why? Why are they living paycheck to paycheck? Because they are stuck in the consumption trap. And in our consumption trap, in our modern consumption trap today, the sign of success in America is being able to outsource all of your production. So you don't do your nails, you don't mow your lawn, you don't do your own dry cleaning, you don't laundry your own clothes, you don't wash your own dog. I mean, you just go through the list and you start thinking, well, it's expensive to outsource all of my production, but I'm not successful unless I do. And so that's the way the system has been designed. Now, if you are out there and saying, well, I want to break free from this hamster wheel, well, it's going to begin with a change of your mind. And we're going to get into that more deeply next week when we talk about the U of unlearn. But I tell you what Jennifer is saying here is so powerful. She just mentioned about gift giving. When were you ever given a choice in that matter, right? Of course we give gifts. We love to give gifts. We're generous people. But do we jump as soon as the corporations tell us to? Corporations say, well, today is Mother's Day, and everyone must give their mother a gift, and they must give them a box of chocolates, and they must give them a card. And we prop up all of these institutions that we ask ourselves, why are we doing this? And, success comes from asking the right questions. So sometimes you have to ask tough questions if you want to get the right answer. And the answer may be really tough because the question is tough. And so you've got to ask the right question. So what we're asking on today's podcast is, are you trapped in the consumption trap? I mean, are you doing things just because the society and our culture have told you have to do them, and then they're, of course, creating this overhead in your life that's like what we called earlier, that grease and fat that clogs the arteries. Well, that's doing the same thing to your income streams, and it's completely unconscious. You're not even thinking about it. You're just doing what the culture says is right to do.
And Jerry, some people might take what we're saying on today's show and think that they have to cut virtually all expenses and get rid of everything, and that's not what we're saying. And in fact, we just met a man just the other day who had a very interesting story on getting rid of everything.
Yeah, this was so bizarre. Right before this podcast, Jennifer and I were going for a stroll in downtown Fayetteville, the city where we live in Arkansas. And I just met a guy on the street. He was sitting on the side of the street. He looked like maybe he was a wounded veteran, very possibly. And he asked if I would buy him some lunch. He was looking for a couple of tacos. Some little joint next to the place he was sitting was offering like 50-cent tacos. He's like, hey, would you buy me 2 of those tacos? I'm hungry. And, I like to help people. And so I said, sure. So I went and I got him the 2 tacos. Cost me $1. I walked back. I gave him the tacos there. And I was walking towards him. And as I was walking I don't know if you can relate to this, but as I was walking towards him, I was thinking in my mind, I don't just want this just to be a quick, hand of tacos and then walk off. I want to do something meaningful for him. I want to say something wise to him, or I want to give him a piece of wisdom. And as soon as I walked up, I sensed in my mind, just close your mouth and listen. And so I did. And he began to talk to me. And he told me his name. He said, my name is Troy. My friends call me Hopper. And he had a dog laying next to him, and his dog's name was Foxy Lady because he liked Jimi Hendrix. That's an old Jimi Hendrix song. And what Troy told me was absolutely jaw-dropping. He told me that he had been working in construction for many years and was earning about $900 a week in construction. And he did that until he learned that he could actually make more money by becoming homeless. So he realized that by becoming homeless, he would actually earn more money than what he could earn as a construction worker. So Troy has now traveled to 37 different states. He told me that he particularly liked the city of San Francisco. He sleeps under a bridge and he peddles for money with a clever story scrawled on a piece of cardboard about him and his dog. And I realized, this guy is basically running a business. He's running a business and but he doesn't need all the bells and whistles, if you will. Like sleeping under a bridge for him is just okay. He doesn't need to have four walls. Well, there you go. There's an example of someone who just slashed all of their overhead. Now, that's not really what we're talking about, of course, right? We're not suggesting that you should live that kind of life by any stretch of the imagination. But it's interesting how some people literally just try to check out of the whole system entirely.
Yeah, and that's what we decided. Well, we decided not to check out of the whole system entirely, but we decided to get out of the city. We left Houston, Texas. We came to Northwest Arkansas, and we live in the country outside of Fayetteville, Arkansas, in the mountains. And here's, this is where we grow our food. We raise our chickens for eggs, and we try to live off the grid as much as we can. Now, what we are advocating is, in contrast to Troy's example of getting rid of basically all overhead and all expenses and all of the trappings, is basically what we're suggesting is to try first to change your mindset, of course. Change your mindset to get out of the consumption trap. But then to avoid expenses that are not directly related to your goals. And then reduce the ones that you must have in order to reach your goal. So, for example, if one of your goals as a beginning stock trader is to fund your trading account, to get that trading account up to maybe several $1,000s to start trading, then you might want to reduce your grocery budget, reduce your eating out budget, maybe even downsize and get lower rent if that's possible. Reduce your entertainment budget, start doing repairs yourself, buy thrift store clothing. You would be surprised how nice of a wardrobe you can have if you take the time to buy your clothing at thrift stores or even garage sales. You would be surprised that most people have this mindset that you'll have a kind of an ugly, outdated wardrobe, but that's actually not true at all. And I highly recommend it. I actually get most of my clothes that way, and it saves a ton of money. And you also avoid going into these, another trap is department stores, malls, even online shopping. They're traps. And by avoiding those, getting your clothing and the different things that you would normally go shopping for, at thrift stores or other places, garage sales, you avoid, I think, other spending that you would do when you go shopping. And so back to the goal of funding your trading account. So you avoid expenses that are not related to funding your trading account. You have a laser focus on that goal. And then the ones that you have to have, you try your best to reduce those as much as possible.
Very powerful stuff. We're talking here about overhead, and is your overhead preventing your success? Is it weighing you down? Is it clogging up your income streams? Is it creating tension in your family? Oftentimes overhead can also create tension in the home because you have too much money going out and it's stressing everybody out because you're trying to live the way the society or the culture tells you that you're supposed to live, and you're trying to keep up with the Joneses. And one thing we often say here is that the Joneses are broke, in case nobody told you. So, you might as well stop trying to keep up with them. Now, this consumption trap, what's nice about it? And we're going to talk about this when we get to the S. Next several weeks when we get to the S, which stands for streams, income streams. You can invert the consumption trap for your own benefit. You see, the consumption trap which never asks your opinion and never asks for your conscious decision in anything. It just simply assumes. It's a presupposition when you're born into this country. It's just presupposed, that you're going to, spend a lot of money doing all of these things to outsource all of your production, and you're not going to buck the system. It's all assumed. Well, you can, just as you've been taught to think like a consumer, you can begin to think instead like a producer. And when you begin to think like a producer, suddenly things change in your life. And so we're going to be talking about that pretty heavily when we get into our S for stream. So be looking for that upcoming podcast as well. Now, let me just say a few things, because Jennifer mentioned how we live now in the country. We do. We live on a piece of land. We have trees. We have water. We have a garden. We have chickens. We're looking at maybe other livestock. We're working very hard on getting much of our house and our property completely off of the grid. I would say we're probably, 60, 70, 75% off the grid right now as we stand, and we still have further to go. Now, but the consumption trap, is really amplified in the city. So when you go into the city, the consumption trap that we're talking about, it's amplified. Think about, I mentioned Jimi Hendrix earlier on the show, and because of Foxy Lady, this Troy's dog, and when you think about Jimi Hendrix, when he takes his electric guitar and starts playing it without plugging it in, you can't hear it. But as soon as he plugs that guitar in and electrifies it, right, he plugs it into the amplifier, wow, you can hear that guitar nice and loud. Well, that's the same way with the consumption trap. Yes, it exists in the country. Yes, it exists outside of the city, but it is amplified by the city. So when you live in the city, it's even more powerful. It's ringing in your ears all the time. You see it on the billboards. You see it on all the television screens. It's everywhere on your computer screen. The consumption trap is also dependent upon the city. It really needs the city. It's like a Klingon. Think of it like a slug that is sucking the life force out of its victims. The consumption trap really depends upon the city. It's enabled by the city. And in fact, the city embraces the consumption trap. It's destructive to your financial health and well-being. And the consumption trap, by the way, could not be even possible if it were not for our modern debt-based monetary system and fractional reserve banking, which makes the consumption trap's wheels just go round and round. So it's really the insidious nature of our debt-based monetary system that has created this consumption trap. And it's our goal for you here at Follow the Money to break free from that, to break free from the consumption trap, to begin to think, what can I produce? What can I produce so I can stop paying for this and I can actually lower my overall overhead? That's a huge goal that we have for you here at Follow the Money. And I want to encourage you, if you have questions about the consumption trap, we have done numerous videos and teachings about the topic, and you'll notice in today's show notes, you'll find lots of great information that you can look up even more information about this consumption trap we've discussed today. Hey friends, Jerry Robinson here from Follow the Money. Are you ready to learn how to trade the financial markets? Or are you ready to take your current trading to the next level? I want to show you how to trade stocks, commodities, currencies, and options for consistent profits. If you're ready to learn, I'm ready to teach you. In fact, we have created a very powerful trading software and education system that provides you with entry and exit signals on every U.S.-based ETF and stock. Our powerful system allows you to identify the current trend in any U.S.-based ETF or stock with high probability entry and exit ideas. You can use our software on any device. And you'll also get access to ongoing live trading coaching videos. And right now we are running a very special deal for all new Platinum and Gold members. Become a member today and start a 7-day free trial. Check out our system. Take a test drive and see if it's right for you. Simply go to followthemoney.com/subscriptions and choose either the gold or the platinum plan, and then start your free 7-day trial today. followthemoney.com/subscriptions.
Follow the Money Weekly presents your precious metals market update. Here's Tom Cloud.
On Friday, the unemployment rates came out at 3.8%. And as we all know, that was a total bogus number. It was not a correct weight. It was misleading because they changed the way John Williams, who did the unemployment numbers for years for the government, says it's much higher. And we've seen people say it's over 6% based on the way it used to be figured before they didn't count you anymore if you were unemployed for over 6 months. This caused the gold market to back up as it looked euphoric for the stock market. And certainly since last Friday, the stock market has come up 200 or 300 points. So it did exactly what it usually does. But as I have taught and showed you, rising interest rates are great for gold. In fact, it's the best investment in the time of rising interest rates. So what happens after good news on the economy is the economy becomes somewhat overheated, and at some point, interest rates have to be raised again. This, to me, was the most certain point that we will have a new, another federal Fed rate increase probably in the next 3 or 4 months, and maybe another one by the end of the year. So this is good for gold mid to long term. It's bad for gold immediately when it happens. So remember, it is a very bogus number. Unemployment is nowhere near 3.8%. It's just a joke. But that's the numbers you look at, and that's what moves the markets as money managers look at these things. So what I want to do the rest of this show is go to a very basic question. In 1 week, we've had 3 questions that are almost identical from new listeners. So even you old listeners, it's good to go back over pricing. How does pricing work in the gold market? There are 3 things. There's the spot price, whether it's gold or silver or platinum or palladium or rhodium or whatever metal it is. So you have the spot price, you have the premium, what a dealer like me pays for a product over spot, and then it's retail price or your price. So it's spot plus premium plus commission equals your price. What I hate to see and what agitates me the worst is these telemarketing firms calling everything over spot the premium, of which they've worked in 8, 10, 20% commissions and called it a premium. It's completely misleading. Once again, a premium is what I pay over. Let me give you, for instance, if I'm normally paying for a 1 ounce gold eagle, I say it's 3.25%. During a year, that will be a normal price that I pay over spot. I charge you 5.75% over spot, which is spot plus 3.25% premium plus 2.5% commission equals 5.75% over spot. Currently, we have a deal going where we can sell them to you. We're buying a spot plus 1.25, and we can sell to you at 3.75 to 3.95% over spot right now for 1 ounce gold eagles. So it's very misleading, and I'm getting ready to testify in a case where a client taped, because you can tape a conversation if you're part of it in most states, but it will be in this, and we will win this case easy if it's not settled before it goes to court, with a telemarketing company that was charging 18% commission above the premium and calling it a premium. So anyway, we just want you to know how to figure that. And then there is a bid-ask spot price. If I'm buying from a major wholesaler to sell to you, I'm paying off an ask. That's what they're asking me. The way a major wholesaler that's a market maker makes a living is having a tiny spread between bid and ask. For instance, if they'll sell me a Gold Eagle at a normal, say 3% over spot, they may give me 1.5% over spot to buy it back from me. And remember, we're the only company I know of in the country that doesn't charge a back-end fee if you buy it from us. So in the case I just gave you, if I sold you today 3.75% over spot, and I could sell it back at 1.5% over spot, all you have to go up is 2.25% to break even. So this is very important that you look at round trip when you're getting in. Occasionally we see someone that will be a little bit cheaper than us up front, but they're going to charge you the same commission when you sell it. So we end up being much cheaper in a round trip. Now, can you put gold and silver in a self-directed precious metals IRA? Of course. So what you need to do is call us if you're interested in having gold and silver in we can act as your broker and representative. We can't act as the custodian, but we can help you get one of the approved custodians, and then you can work with us on what to buy and what to put into your IRA. And also remember, the biggest thing going on in my world is we have the lowest storage in the world. And if you buy $10,000 or more from us and get an account number in one of these warehouses, then you can move anything else you've got. We're moving right now a 50,000 ounce deal. We're going to save the investor, listen to this, 75 basis points. 75 basis points on over $800,000 of silver. This is going to be unbelievable. This is over nearly $8,000 a year just in storage by buying from us and having it moved. And we can help you have it moved and get you a price for moving it at a very low price compared to if you shipped it. So if you need to talk to us about that, give us a call at 800-247-2812. 800-247-2812. So in review, your cost when you're buying from us is spot plus premium plus commission equals your price. When you go to sell, there is no back-end commission. If you bought it from us, we will search the wholesale market, get you the best price we can, and we make nothing for doing that. Then, if you have gold or silver that you want to roll part of your IRA into a self-directed precious metals IRA, or if you want to become a client and move what you already have from, if you're paying 50 basis points or more, we're going to save you a tremendous amount of money by having you move it to our storage deal. So hopefully we'll be talking to you soon. With this week's Precious Metals Market Update, this is Tom Cloud signing in.
Hey friends, this is Jerry Robinson from Follow the Money Weekly. Recently, we have been receiving many emails from our listeners commenting on the great help they're getting from our precious metals expert, Tom Cloud. Gold and silver are excellent hedges against the growing threat of coming U.S. inflation. Who's your gold guy? Make it Tom Cloud. With over 30 years experience with precious metals, Tom will answer all of your questions. Don't buy your gold and silver through some call center and pay inflated prices. Call my good friend Tom Cloud and speak directly with him and get all of your questions answered. For a limited time, Tom is offering free shipping and insurance on every gold and silver purchase made by our listeners. Call 800-247-2812. And when you do, tell him that Jerry Robinson from Follow the Money Weekly sent you, and he'll throw in that free shipping and insurance on your entire order. Call your gold guy, Tom Cloud, right now for the very best deals on gold and silver coins. 800-247-2812. That is 800-247-2812.
Hello, everybody. This is Mike Mitchell from Strategic Wealth Partners and Christian Financial Referrals. I'm coming to you again today, hopefully to answer some of your questions about retirement planning. We have a question that has come to us through a platinum member by the name of Ben over the Follow the Money Daily website, and he asked this question. I have a 403B plan with $250,000 in it, and I was wondering if I could do some type of rollover to another self-directed retirement vehicle. The answer to that question is very likely you can. If you're no longer employed with the firm or the company or the institution that set up the 403B plan, you can do a rollover, a trustee-to-trustee rollover, to a self-directed IRA. Another option would be to do a transfer from your 403B plan to another 403B plan if it is offered to you, or even possibly do a transfer to a 401k plan if that is the new plan that's available to you. However, you can do that if you are no longer employed with the firm or with the institution that has offered you that plan, and you can do that without a tax event and without penalty. Now, there is one other option, oftentimes that's overlooked and very little people know about this, and it's called an in-service rollover. You may still be employed or connected to the firm or the financial or the institution that offers this plan, and their plan document allows you to do an in-service rollover. Usually there's an age requirement. Typically it's 59 and a half years of age or older. Sometimes a plan document allows you to do it at age 55, and they want you to only roll over the assets that are vested. So these are the opportunities that you have to move your assets to a self-directed retirement vehicle that allows you to pick and select the investment options that you want to use to build your future retirement assets. If we could possibly help you answer those questions, I want to invite you to give us a call at 833-370-077 and let us here at Strategic Wealth Partners help answer some of your retirement questions.
All right, friends. Well, I hope you really enjoyed today's podcast. We really wanted to hit hard on this topic of the consumption trap today, and I'm sure we did. I'm sure we met the mark. I'm sure you took something away from today's podcast to help you think about that overhead in your life. Now, remember, on next week's podcast, we're going to be delving into the U of course, charting your course. And the U of the word course we are calling unlearn. The word we want to focus on there is unlearn. And in fact, that brings us to our final word. I want to read you a very interesting quote in preparation for next week's podcast on the topic of unlearn by a gentleman by the name of Felix Adler. He was a professor back in the 19th century, and he was also very interested in educating children. Here is his quote. We should teach our children nothing which they shall ever need to unlearn. We should strive to transmit to them the best possessions and the truest thought, the noblest sentiments. Very, very powerful quote here by Felix Adler, that we should teach our children nothing which they should ever need to unlearn. What a provocative thought for us as we close out our program. That's just something to think about. Remember, friends, when you want the truth, just follow the money. Have a safe and prosperous week, and we'll see you right back here next time. Until then, God bless.
All of the information contained on the Follow the Money podcast is strictly for informational and educational purposes. It should not be construed as specific investment advice. The views and opinions of our guests and sponsors, including Tom Cloud, are their own and do not necessarily represent the views of FTMDaily.com or Robinson Media Group, LLC. Jerry Robinson does hold an insurance license and at times may offer consulting on life insurance and fixed retirement income products. Follow-up, individualized responses to email or phone requests that involve the rendering of personalized investment advice for compensation will not be made absent compliance with state investment advisor registration requirements or an applicable exemption or exclusion and applicable insurance regulations. Past performance is not indicative of future results. You should be aware of the real risk of loss in following any strategy or investment discussed on the podcast. Remember, never do your financial planning through podcast or radio. It's your money. Be wise. Do your due diligence and always consult a trusted financial professional before making any financial decisions.